I've been playing Rise of the Ronin non-stop and have a ton of tips to help make sure that you get the most out of the game right from the start, including a bunch of things that the game doesn't tell you, some key combat techniques, some of the best skills to get first, ways to manage your inventory, and lots more, all without any story spoilers. These are things that I definitely wish I had known sooner, so let's get into it. Now let's start with probably my biggest piece of overall combat advice, which was an absolute game changer for me. And if you played Wolong, then you're probably familiar with this already. But you can press and hold down block through the counterspark parry. Let me explain. The counterspark is Ronin's version of the parry, and is a massive component to the combat in the game. If you're gonna be successful, you're gonna need to try to master this skill. But the timing can be a bit tricky, especially early in the game when you're still getting used to it, and when you're up against enemies that have multi-hit combos. Successfully parrying the first or even second hit in an enemy's combo doesn't guarantee you'll stagger them or knock them out of their combo, meaning if you let your guard down after the counterspark, you'll leave yourself open to taking massive damage. But if you hold L1 to block through the counterspark, you'll remain in a defensive position whether or not your counterspark was successful. You can see here that even though I'm attempting to counterspark, I'm continuing to keep the L1 button pressed down. That way I remain in a defensive position with my guard up. Now taking a hit while you're blocking will still deal some damage, as well as drain your ki, which is Roman's version of stamina, but it won't leave you nearly as vulnerable. This technique also works if you decide to circle dodge instead of using the counterspark. Simply hold down L1 to block, press circle for dodge, and then you'll immediately go back into your defensive position once the dodge is complete. And speaking of combos, you'll want to get in the habit of finishing each one of your combos by pressing R1 to do a blade flash, which will help you recover a significant portion of your ki. Running out of ki will put you in the staggered state, which not only leaves you open to taking massive damage, but it's also just pretty frustrating because you can't move or dodge out of the way. The blade flash helps you recover your ki after every sequence of hits, but it can only be done at the end of a sequence. If you wait too long, it'll be too late and you'll miss your opportunity. So getting in the habit of doing this early is going to significantly help you along the way. Now another key combat tip is to not go in for the critical hit straight away. Once you break an enemy's posture and drain their ki, you'll have the opportunity to press triangle to deal a critical hit. But if you're looking to absolutely maximize damage, you can usually get in an extra 3 or 4 hits before going in for the critical hit. Getting those hits in while the enemy is staggered and then dealing the critical hit is going to be the best way to maximize total damage output. And now let's talk about your inventory, because the loot system in this game is fairly comprehensive and it really doesn't take long before you have way too many items than you can manage. And truthfully, most of these aren't really worth using. So the best way to manage your inventory without manually sifting through every item is to enable auto disassemble or auto sell by rarity from the settings menu. There are 4 different rarity settings in the game: standard, superior, excellent, and exquisite. And obviously you get better equipment the later you go in the game. So by turning on auto disassemble and setting the rarity to either standard or superior, you'll automatically be getting rid of those lower level items. Now earlier in the game, I prefer auto disassemble over auto sell, because it turns those items into materials that you need to upgrade weapons from the blacksmith. That way, when you find the weapon or weapons that really fit your playstyle, you'll have the upgrade materials needed to take them to the next level. There's also some settings in the game that you're definitely going to want to make sure to update right from the start, and these are just going to help enhance the overall game and combat experience. First, I find it really helpful to switch the controller settings to hold to sprint. This will give you the ability to just click and hold down the L3 button to sprint, which I find to be a lot more natural. And speaking of holding, you can reduce the amount of time it takes to press R1 to interact with the various elements in the game. By default, this is set to 5, which can seem like it takes a while. I have mine set to 2, which feels a lot more in line with the flow of the game. You'll also want to make sure that you have auto collect set to on. Not only does this help when you're just running around the open world, allowing you to collect the various items without stopping, but it also applies whenever you kill an enemy. The drop loot from enemies will automatically be picked up and added to your inventory. And lastly, I like to have the critical hit assassinate button turned on. This will give you a better indicator on an enemy when you're able to deal a critical hit. Now in terms of missions and side quests, there's a couple of ones that I definitely recommend doing early. One of the first things you're going to want to do once the world opens up is get a horse. This is going to make traversal much easier. So to get the horse, you'll want to travel here on the map, clear out the bandits, which can mostly be done in stealth, and once they're gone, a cutscene will play and you'll be able to talk to this NPC. They'll give you the horse and the horse whistle, which will allow you to summon the horse wherever you are, and you'll definitely want to make sure to equip this item to your inventory. But here's a couple of other tips while you're traversing on the horse. You can dismount from the horse using the horse whistle rather than pressing circle, which might feel more natural for some people. You can also jump on the horse by pressing the jump button rather than holding R1 to mount the horse. This also works when you're on top of buildings. Simply whistle to call your horse and then jump from the building and you'll land perfectly on your horse. And finally, this also works while you're on your glider. Simply use the horse whistle while gliding and then your horse will appear below you, release the glider and you'll land safely and I presume painlessly onto your horse. Other missions you'll want to explore early are anything to do with Igashichi the inventor. Not only will these quests reward you with cool new weapons like the flamethrower, but by turning in rare books to Igashichi, you'll unlock an inventor item tree which has some pretty useful things on there. You can unlock upgrades to your avicula, like better controls and lower key consumption, as well as my favorite item, the detector. The detector allows you to detect nearby enemies even through walls. This is super useful, especially early on in the game when you have to rely a lot more on stealth to navigate around through the different bandit camps. And there's also a handful of skills that I would prioritize getting that are gonna help you through some of the earlier, tougher parts of the game. Mainly, anything having to do with stealth, and in particular, I really like the rapid assassination skill that you get in the dexterity skill tree. This allows you to kill 2 enemies in quick succession. And also the grapple rope assassination skill, which allows you to pull enemies up using your grapple. In the strength skill tree, I really like the auto life recovery skill, which allows you to fully heal when not in battle, as well as the rapid critical hits, increased critical hit damage, and key recovery skills. In the charm skill tree, I really like health recovery for your allies, which allows you to heal your party members whenever you heal, and in general, any of the speechcraft skills, because they open up different paths to the game and they give you different ways to interact with different NPCs throughout the game, so you're getting more story. Now, of course, it doesn't really take all that long in Rise of the Ronin to get enough skill points to be able to unlock these and pretty much all of the skills in the game, but these are definitely the ones that I would prioritize first. And that's my list of things that I wish I had known when I first started playing Rise of the Ronin. But what are some of your best beginner's tips? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for even more Rise of the Ronin content. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.